Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ashok IT. Today, we are going to discuss what is Jenkins, what is CICD, and how to work with Jenkins and how Jenkins will be used in the real time. All right. Everybody can see my screen. Is my voice clear? Good. So, as part of this workshop, what we are going to learn. As part of this workshop today, we are going to understand what is the build and the deployment process of a project, and what is an environment and how many environments will be used for one application in the real time, and what are the challenges in manual build and the deployment process, what is CI/CD and why we need to go for CI/CD, and we will talk about Jenkins introduction. What is the Jenkins? Why we need Jenkins and the Jenkins setup? How to create the jobs in the Jenkins? That is Jenkins job creation. How to schedule Jenkins jobs? Then conclusion. So this is our agenda for today's workshop. So it is going to take 2 hours of time to understand all this information. All right. What is build and deployment process? Application environments in real time, challenges in manual build and deployments, what is a CI/CD and why we need CI/CD, Jenkins introduction, Jenkins setup, Jenkins job creation, job scheduling, and conclusion. All right, let's get started. Sir, what is build and deployment process? For every project, development team will be available. So it may be a Java development team or .NET development team or Python development team. Development team is responsible to develop the code required for the project. Based on the client requirement, development team will write the source code of the project. So in a team, multiple developers will be available, and those developers will be available in different locations. Some members in Hyderabad location, some members in Bangalore, or some members in US location, like that. So development team will work from different locations, depends on the situation. All these developers code will be stored at one place, that is called source code management tool, GitHub or Bitbucket. There are several source code management softwares are available in the market. So why we need this GitHub? So GitHub is a version control software. So by using this GitHub, we can integrate source code of our project. In a project, multiple developers will be available. All the developers code we are going to keep in GitHub repository, or we can keep in Bitbucket repository. There are several repository softwares available in the market. GitHub and Bitbucket are trending softwares in the market nowadays. Development team will write the code. The developers will store the code in GitHub. GitHub is a repository software. Once the code is available in the GitHub, can we ask the client to take the code from the GitHub and execute it? Client has given a requirement. For based on the client requirement, we have developed that project by using some Java language. So there are 10 developers available. They have written the code for 1 year. All the code they have tested, it is working as expected. That code they kept in the GitHub. Can we ask the client to take the code from the GitHub? Can we ask the client to take the code from the GitHub? No, no, because clients cannot understand Java. Client may not know how to run the Java. Client may not know how to connect to the database. So clients don't know about the technology. Clients don't know how to run the Java application. Clients don't know how to run the project. Clients don't know how to run the project. So that's why what we need to do, we need to take the code from the GitHub and we need to deploy the code in the server. So that is called build and deployment process. For every project, build and deployment process is mandatory. So what is that build and deployment process? We need to take latest source code from the GitHub. So developers will write the code. Developers will keep the code in the GitHub. We need to take that latest source code from the GitHub and we need to compile that project source code. So .java files will be available in the GitHub. So we need to download that source code from the GitHub. We need to compile that source code. Then bytecode will be generated. Once the bytecode is generated, we need to execute unit test cases. So whatever the JUnits that we have implemented in the project, those JUnits we need to execute. Those JUnits we need to execute and perform code review using SonarQube. What are the mistakes done by the developers? We can identify those mistakes by using SonarQube. Then upload the build artifact into Nexus. We will package the application that whatever the package is created, it may be a jar file or it may be a war file. That packaged file we need to upload into Nexus. Upload the build artifact into Nexus repository. Then finally deploy the application in server. So this is called build and deployment process. This is called build and deployment process. Take the latest source code from the GitHub, compile the project source code, and execute the unit test cases, perform the code review using SonarQube, prepare the war file and upload the artifact into Nexus. We need to package the application as a war file if it is a web application, that whatever the war file is created for the backup purpose, we will store that war file into artifact like a Nexus. Then we will deploy the application in the server. Once we deploy the application in the server, then users can access. Now we are accessing www.facebook.com, www.gmail.com, www.facebook.com, www.gmail.com. So what is the meaning of that? So some people has done the code for the Facebook project is having a development team. Developers has written the code. That code will be kept inside a repository. Then some team will be available. They are going to perform build and deployment. Development plus operations, that is called DevOps. That is called DevOps. So in a project, development team will be available and the operations team will be available. What is the duty of the development team? Development team is responsible to write the code. Development team is responsible to write the code. Then what is the duty of operations team? Operations team is responsible to perform build and deployment. So operations team need to take the latest source code from the GitHub. They need to compile the source code. They need to execute the test cases. They need to perform the code review of the project. They need to package the application into jar file or war file. One extra step also will come here. So here they are going to package the application either as a jar file or war file. Package the application. If the application is a standalone application, they will package as a jar file. If the project is a web application, they will package as a war file. Either jar file or war file will be available to package our application. Got my point here? I have added the new step now. See here, development team will write the code. Development team will keep the code in the GitHub. Then operations team is responsible to perform these operations. This is called build and deployment process. Take latest source code from the GitHub, compile the project source code, execute unit test cases, perform the code review using SonarQube, package the application as a jar file or war file, then upload that artifact into Nexus server, then deploy the application in the server. This is a web server like a Tomcat, JBoss or WebLogic. There are some servers available to run our application. So developers will do the coding, operations team will perform this build and deployment. That is called as development plus operations, which is equal to DevOps. DevOps is a process in the IT which is used to deliver the project to the client with a high quality. DevOps is a culture. DevOps is a process that IT companies are following nowadays to develop and deliver the project to the client. Guys, you got the clarity. What is the build and deployment process? You got the clarity what is the build and deployment process. So once you write the code, separate team will be available to perform the operations. Operations means they will do the deployment of the application. In order to do the deployment of the application, there are several steps involved. DevOps team will perform all these steps to deploy our project into server. Once the project is deployed to the server, then a client can access our project by using URL www.gmail.com, www.facebook.com, www.naukri.com. All the projects we are using, they are running in the server. Whatever the projects we are using currently, those projects are running inside the server. Are you guys clear? Good. Now, why we are going to upload the artifact in Nexus? Nexus is a artifact server, which is a backup. Whatever the war file we have created, that war file I want to keep as a backup. For that, Nexus repository will be used. For backup purpose, Nexus repository will be used. And we are going to deploy the application in the server for executing. All right. So this is build and deployment process. Now, sir, how many times we need to do this build and deployment? So whenever the development is completed, directly can we deploy the project to the client? Once the coding is completed today morning, can we directly deploy the code and give the code to the server and give the code to the client? Deploy the application? No. So once the coding is completed, we need to test how that code is working. Whatever the code done by the development team, is that code working as expected or not? Is that code expected by the client or not? All the functionalities are working as expected or not, that we need to test. Whatever the code we have created, whatever the code we have developed, directly we should not give that code to the client, because code may work or may not work. So we need to test whether that code is working as expected or not. So in order to test that project in the company, we will use several environments. Those are called as application environments. In the company, several environments will be available. Those are called as application environments. What are those application environments? See here, code will be available in the GitHub. Our project source code will be available in the GitHub. As we seen in the previous slide, developers will write the code. Developers code will be available in the GitHub. GitHub is a repository where the project source code will be maintained. The entire source code of the project, all the developers code will be maintained in the GitHub. GitHub is a repository. Once the code is available in the GitHub, that code we need to deploy to the server. So directly we are not going to deliver the code to the client, because whatever the work we have done, that work may execute as expected or may not execute as expected. Before giving the code to the client, we need to test our code is working as expected or not. Before going to give the code to the client, we need to test our code is working as expected or not. Fine. For that, in the companies, we will maintain some environment. What is the meaning of environment? Environment is a platform which is used to run the application. Environment is a platform which is used to run the application. What environments will be available in the real time? In the real time, we will have several environments like dev environment, QA environment, prod environment. Dev environment, nothing but it is a development environment. In the development environment, that means it is one machine where we will deploy the code and developers will test the code is working as expected or not. That is called dev environment. So as a developer, I am writing some code for the login functionality. You are one developer, you are writing some code for registration functionality. There is a other developer, he is working on some report functionality. Multiple developers will be available in the project. All the developers are working on different functionalities. So my code I have tested in my system. Your code you have tested in your system. Her code she has tested in her system. But when we integrate all our code, my code, your code, her code, three members are available. When we integrate three members code, all the functionalities are working or not. Developers only should test it. To test that, developers will use one environment that is called as dev environment. Developers will use one environment, it is called dev environment. Project code will be available in the GitHub. From the GitHub, we will deploy the code to dev environment. Dev environment will be used by our development team to test the code which we have written is working as expected or not. That is called code integration testing. Whatever the testing is done by the developers in the dev environment, that testing is called as code integration testing. Once the developers has tested the code in the dev environment, then code will be deployed in the QA environment. QA stands for quality assurance. QA stands for quality assurance. So software testers will be available for the project. How we have the DevOps team, development team, similarly testing team also will be available. Development team is responsible to write the code. Testing team is responsible to test the functionality. DevOps team is responsible to deploy the code into the server. Okay, so once the developers has done the coding, that code directly we are not going to deploy to the server, because whatever the code developers has done may work or may not work. After giving to the client, if code is not working, client will disappoint and client business will be collapsed. Client will lose the revenue, negative impression on the project, n number of drawbacks will be available. That's why whatever the work we do, first we test it. If we are confident, if it is working as expected in several scenarios, then only we will give to the client. So production is nothing but live environment. Whatever the project we are accessing, that projects are running in the production environment. Production means live. www.facebook.com, you are accessing Facebook application. That means Facebook application is running in the production. You are accessing Facebook application because Facebook application is available in the production environment. We are accessing gmail.com. Gmail.com is accessing, we are accessing the Gmail application from the browser. That means Gmail application is running in the production. We are accessing LinkedIn. We are accessing WhatsApp. We are accessing IRCTC. Any web application, any application which you are accessing from the browser, that application is running in the production environment. Production is nothing but live environment. End users can access the application when it is deployed in the production. Before giving the project to the production, there will be a QA environment. Software testers will be available for the project. Software testers are responsible to test application functionality. Whether application is working as expected or not, that will be tested by software testers. To test the application, our testers will use one environment. That environment is called as QA environment. QA stands for quality assurance. QA stands for quality assurance. QA stands for quality assurance. So dev environment will be available, QA environment will be available, prod environment will be available. Dev environment, developers will use to perform code integration testing. My code, your code, everybody code. In the project, multiple developers will be available. When all the developers code is integrated at one place, there may be a chance of getting some issues. When multiple developers code is integrated in one place, there is a chance of getting some issues. Okay guys, so to resolve those issues, we need to test the code first. We need to test the code first. So when we are testing that code, there is a chance of getting some issues and we are responsible to fix the issues. So developers will test the code by using dev environment. Testers will test the code by using QA environment. Testing, QA nothing but a testing. Once the testers testing is completed, if everything is working perfectly, then only it will go for production environment. Production environment is nothing but live environment. Production environment is nothing but live environment. Good. Guys, you got the clarity? What is application environment? Guys, you got the clarity? What is application environment? Yep. What is application environment? Environment nothing but a platform which is used to run our project. Environment nothing but it is a platform which is used to run our project. So now, once the coding is done by the developers, are we going to deploy the code directly in the production so that users can access? Once the development is completed, can we deploy the code directly in the production so that users can access our project? We should not. That is a blunder. That is a blunder. We should not directly deploy the code into the production. Okay, dev environment, QA environment. Similarly, UAT environments also will be available. Dev, QA, UAT, production, several environments will be available. In the diagram, I'm showing you just three environments. I got this image with the three boxes. So we will have one more environment called UAT environment, user acceptance testing environment, that will be used by client to test. So first developers will test it, then testers will test it. After that, clients also will test the code. When the client is testing that code, that testing is called as user acceptance testing. UAT environment also will be available. Then prod environment also will be available. UAT environment and prod environment also will be available in the real time. Okay, dev environment, UAT environment, and prod environment also will be available. So guys, what is environment? What is environment? A platform which is used to run our application. Environment means a platform which is used to run our application. So application environments. What are the environments will be available for our application? In the real time, we will have dev environment. Dev environment will be available. QA environment will be available. QA environment will be available, UAT environment will be available in the real time, and similarly, pilot environment will be available in the real time. Then prod environment will be available. In my project, we have these environments: dev environment, QA environment, UAT environment, pilot environment, prod environment. Dev environment means developers will use it. Developers will use to perform code integration testing. Developers will use to perform code integration testing. Testers will use to perform Testers will use to perform functional testing. Functional testing, that means client has given some requirement, developers has done some coding. So whatever the code done by the developers, is that code working as expected by the client or not? Is expected by the client or not? Is expected by the client or not? Whatever the code we are done by, whatever the code done by the developers, is that code working as expected or not? Testers will test it. That is called functional testing. Here developers will do code integration testing, testers will perform functional testing of the project. Then UAT stands for user acceptance testing. UAT stands for user acceptance testing. Client side team, client side team will perform. Client side team will perform application testing. Simple example. What is UAT? Guys, you want to purchase one bike. You want to purchase one bike. You will tell that I want a bike with these features. So that bike company, the bike showroom will tell, okay, boss, your bike, we have given the order. Your bike will come in 2 weeks of time. So 2 weeks completed. So within 2 weeks, they have manufactured the bike which you need, or car also. If you go to the showroom, today Sunday, if you go to the showroom, if you pay the money, immediately will they give the car, or they need some time for booking? If you want to purchase a car, man, if you go to the showroom, you want to purchase a car. If you want to purchase a car, go to the showroom, tell them that, hey, take this 10 lakhs, give me the car. Will they give you like that? No, there will be a process. You need to book the car. You need to pay the advance amount. They will tell that, sir, advance booking 1 month. If you book the car today, you will get it by December 20 is your delivery date. Within these 20 days of time or 30 days of time, they will prepare the car for you and they will give the delivery. When the car is ready, pay the money and directly get the car, or you will do a test drive for the car. When the new car you are purchasing, are you directly going to get the car to your house, or you are going to do the test drive before paying the money? We are going to do the test drive before paying the money to the company, right? Similarly, when we are going to deliver the project to the clients, clients also will perform a test drive on the project. That a test drive is called as user acceptance testing. So project done by developers. Developers has tested that code. Everything is working. Testers also tested that code. Everything is working. When we are going to give the code to the client, client also will do the testing of the project. That testing is called as user acceptance testing. Once a client user acceptance testing is completed, then client will decide project is having a quality or not, project functionalities are working as expected or not. Client will decide after UAT. To do the client testing, UAT environment will be available. Dev environment will be used by developers to test. QA environment will be used by testers to test. UAT environment will be available for the client to test our application. After that, pilot environment will be available. It is also called as pre-production environment. It is used for performance testing. How our application is performing, how many users our application can handle. If 1 lakh people access our application at a time, if 2 lakh people access our application at a time, if 1 crore people access our project at a time, how the project is behaving. So they are going to test performance of the application before giving the project to the client. So to do that performance testing, we will have one environment that is called pilot environment. Pilot environment is also called as a pre-prod environment. Some people will call it as a staging environment also. Pilot environment is called pre-prod environment. Some people will call it as a staging environment also. Some people will call it as a staging environment also. Right, guys? Now, UAT, some companies UAT will be available in our company. In some projects, UAT will be available in the client location. It depends upon the project. Okay? Pilot. Pilot means what? Pilot is called as pre-prod environment. Pilot is called as pre-prod environment. So pre-prod environment, it is used for performance testing. Pre-prod environment is used for performance testing. Production environment. Prod environment is nothing but live environment. End users will access. End users will access application running in prod environment. End users will access application which is running in prod environment. Are you guys able to follow this? What is environment? Environment is a platform which is used to run our application. Application environments. In the real time, several environments will be available for our project. Dev environment, QA environment, UAT environment, pilot environment, prod environment. Dev environment, developers will use to perform code integration testing. QA environment, testers will use to perform functional testing. UAT environment, that is called user acceptance testing. Client side team will perform application testing on the UAT. Pilot. Pilot is called as pre-prod environment. Before deploying the project in the production, application performance will be tested in the pilot environment. Then prod environment. Prod environment is nothing but live environment. Once the application is deployed in the prod environment, end users will access application running in the prod environment. Now we are accessing www.gmail.com. That means this is production application URL, production environment URL of the project. Gmail is running in the production. That's why we are able to access. Now we are accessing www.facebook.com. This is production environment URL. Production environment URL of the project. Production environment URL of the project. Are you guys getting my point? Production environment URLs we are going to access. Now guys, now tell me, whenever developers has done the coding, can we directly give that code to the client? Once the developer has done the coding, can we give the code to the client directly? Developers has done the coding. After coding is completed by the developers, can we deliver that code to the client directly? Why we should not deliver the code to the client directly? After coding is completed, that code may work or that code may not work. So that code should be tested properly. Once the coding is completed, that code should be tested properly. That code should be tested properly. Are you guys clear with my point? Once the developers has done the coding, that code should be tested properly. So in order to test that code, we are going to use environment. In order to test that code, we are going to use environment. We are going to use environment. What environments will be available? Are we using one environment? Are we are using multiple environments? Multiple environments will be available. Dev environment, QA environment, UAT environment, pilot environment, prod environment. Dev environment will be used by developers to perform code integration testing. QA environment will be used by testers to perform functional testing of the project. UAT environment means user acceptance testing. Client or client side team will use the environment to test. Pilot environment, it is called pre-prod. Application performance will be tested, how it is behaving. Do we need to improve any infrastructure? If application is slow, then what is the reason? Is the database queries are taking more time? Application code is taking more time? Or network speed is slow? System hardware, RAM capacity, hard disk capacity, SSDs. Lot of things we are going to test in the pilot environment. We need to improve performance of the application. Once application performance is good, if it is as expected, then finally we will go for prod. Prod nothing but production. Application which is deployed in the production will be accessed by end users. Application which is deployed by application which is deployed in the production will be accessed by end users. Will be accessed by end users. Got my point? Huh. Now guys, here we have build plus deployment. These are the operations. So developers are doing the coding. Developers code is available in the GitHub. That a developer code should be deployed to server. To deploy the code to the server, which is available in the GitHub, you need to do some operations. Those are called build and deployment operations. Take latest code from the GitHub, compile the source code, execute the test cases, perform the code review, package the application, upload artifact into Nexus, deploy the application in the server. So these are the steps that we need to perform. So for every project, development team will be available. Development team will be available. Similarly, testing team will be available. Similarly, operations team will be available. Development team, what this development team will do? Responsible for project development. Responsible for project development. These people are going to do coding. Development team is responsible for project development, coding. Then what is the purpose of testing team? Responsible for project functionality testing. Functionality testing, verification and validation. Verification and validation. Client has given the requirement, developers has done the coding. Whatever the requirement given by the client, our application is working as expected or not. Our application is working as expected or not will be tested as part of testing team. Testing team is responsible for testing project functionality. Operations team responsible for build and deployment. Responsible for build and deployment process. Okay, so development team is responsible for project development, testing team is responsible for project functionality testing, operations team is responsible for build and deployment process. So in the companies, development team plus operations team will work. That is called DevOps. That is called DevOps. So what is the DevOps? Development plus operations. Development plus operations. Development plus operations is nothing but DevOps. Is nothing but DevOps. What is this DevOps? DevOps is a process, guys. DevOps is a process which is used to collaborate development teamwork, and operations teamwork. Nowadays in the market, DevOps is having a lot of demand. What is the reason why the DevOps is having a lot of demand in the market? Because of this reason only. Because of this reason only. Developers are doing some coding, operations team is doing the deployment. So there should be some collaboration between development team and operations team. That's where DevOps comes into picture. DevOps is a process which is used to automate or which is used to collaborate development teamwork and operations teamwork. Using DevOps process, using DevOps process, we can simplify application build and deployment. Using DevOps process, we can simplify application build and deployment process. So if you join in the company as a developer, you need to write the code. You need to keep the code in the GitHub. If you join in the company as a DevOps engineer, you need to perform these 7 steps. Take the code from the GitHub done by the developers, compile that code, execute the test cases, perform the code review, package the application, upload the artifact, deploy the application. You are responsible for these operations. You are responsible for these operations when you join in the company as a DevOps engineer. When you join in the company as a DevOps engineer, you are responsible to perform build and deployment. You are responsible to perform build and deployment. Okay, guys, now if you do this deployment manually, dev environment deployment, QA environment deployment, UAT environment, pilot environment, prod environment, like this we have multiple environments. First code is deployed in the dev. In the dev it worked properly, then deployed in the QA, worked properly, deployed in the production, then worked properly. After 2 weeks we got a problem. In the production, code is not working. Then we need to change the code. We need to find the issue. We need to fix the issue. Then code should be deployed in the dev. Code should be deployed in the QA. Code should be deployed in the UAT. Then finally code should be deployed in the production. Are we going to deploy the code directly from GitHub to production? Will any company do that? Will any company do that? Will anybody do the deployment directly from the GitHub to production? Will anybody deploy the code directly from GitHub to production, guys? Nobody will do that. Why? After deploying the code to production, if it is not working, project will fail, client will lose the business, people will lose the trust on our project. So that's why we don't deploy the code directly in the production. We need to deploy the code into dev environment. In the dev, if it is working properly, then it will go to QA environment. In the QA, if it is working properly, then we will go for UAT environment. If it is working properly in the UAT, then we will go for the pilot. If it is working properly in the pilot environment, finally we will go for a production environment. The last environment is our production environment. Okay, when you want to do these kind of deployments, if you do the deployment manually, lot of burden. Every day we need to deploy latest code. Every day developers are writing the code. Every day developers are writing the code. Every day we need to do the deployment. Take the code, compile the code, test the code, package the code, upload the artifact, deploy to server. Or we are going to do that deployment, build and deployment. If you do that build and deployment manually, what is the problem? What are the challenges available? Every day we need to deploy the latest code, and we need to deploy the code into multiple environments. It will take a lot of time. Same thing we need to do again and again. There is a chance of doing some mistake. So these all are the challenges available in manual process. Could you please read the challenges? Guys, could you please read the challenges available in the manual process? I need to take the code from the GitHub. I need to compile the code. I need to test the code. I need to package the code. I need to review the code. I need to upload the artifact. I need to deploy to the server. All that process I need to do. That process am I doing in one environment? Am I going to do the deployment in one environment? Or I need to do the deployment in multiple environments? I need to do the deployment in the multiple environments. So now I want to deploy the code in the dev environment, and I want to deploy the code in the QA environment. I need to deploy the code in the UAT, pilot, production every day, multiple times, repeated work, lot of time, lot of time. Are you guys clear with my point? Every day we need to deploy latest code. Every day we need to deploy latest code in the server. Every day we need to deploy latest code in the server. Okay guys, how many times we need to do the deployment? How many times we need to do the deployment in a day? There are 20 developers available. Assume that 20 developers are changing the code every day. We need to do the deployment. How many times? multiple times, same process, multiple environments, dev deployment, QA deployment, UAT deployment, production deployment. Doing that work manually is manually, if you want to do that work, it is going to take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. You need to do same repeated work again and again and again. There is a chance of doing the mistakes also. So these are the problems involved in manual build and deployment. What is the process of build and deployment? Taking the code from the GitHub, compile the code, test the code, review the code, package the code, and deploy to the server. If you want to do the deployment manually, every day we need to do, and we need to deploy in the multiple environments. It will take a lot of time. Same work we need to do again and again, and there is a chance of getting the errors. There is a chance of getting the errors. These all are the challenges involved in manual process. To overcome these challenges only, we are going to use a concept called Jenkins. To overcome these problems, to overcome the manual process, we are going to use Jenkins. Whatever the work that we are doing manually to deploy the project, everything can be automated by using Jenkins. Now see, developers are writing the code in the GitHub. So by using Jenkins, we can take the code from the GitHub, we can package the code, we can review the code, we can deploy the code. Whatever the steps we are doing manually, everything can be automated by using Jenkins. Now see, earlier we have shown you build and deployment process. There are 7 steps available. Instead of we are doing these 7 steps manually, our Jenkins will do the steps for us. Our Jenkins is going to do the steps for us. What is the Jenkins and what is the purpose of Jenkins? Guys, before going for Jenkins, are you able to understand the challenges in the project deployment process? Are you guys able to understand the challenges of the project deployment? Are you guys able to understand the challenges of the project deployment? What are the challenges involved in the project deployment process? Are you guys able to understand those challenges or not? Are you guys able to understand the challenges? Yes. What are the challenges involved? What are the challenges involved in the manual build and deployment process? Come on. Every day, code changes will happen because multiple developers will be available. Every day, they will be working on the development activity. Every day, we need to deploy the latest code. And every day, we need to deploy the code in the multiple environments. And it will take a lot of time. Repeated work we need to do. There is a chance of doing the mistakes, error prone. There is a chance of doing the mistakes when you do that process manually. Okay, guys. So now, how can we avoid this manual process? Is there any tool available which is used to automate that manual process? Yes, that tool is Jenkins. That tool is Jenkins. So what is our today's agenda? Jenkins. Now you got the clarity why we need to learn Jenkins? Guys, now you got the clarity why we need to learn the Jenkins. Yep, respond. Why we need to learn the Jenkins? Why we need to learn the Jenkins? Come on, man. I'm expecting answer from you. To automate the process. To automate which process? To automate which process? To automate the build and deployment process. You are giving right answer now. Jenkins is a software, or Jenkins is a tool which is used to automate build and deployment process. It is used to automate build and deployment process. See here, development team is there. Development team is writing the code. Code will be available in the GitHub. Then Jenkins tool will be available. Jenkins will take the code from the GitHub. Jenkins will compile the project by using Maven. Jenkins will package the project by using Maven. Jenkins will perform the review by using Sonar. Jenkins will deploy the code into server. Whatever the build and deployment process we are doing manually, that build and deployment process can be automated by using Jenkins. So what is Jenkins? Now see, what is Jenkins? Jenkins is free and open source software. You can see logo of the Jenkins also there. Jenkins is free and open source software. You no need to pay money to use the Jenkins. It is a free software. Jenkins software developed by using Java language. Jenkins is free and open source software. Jenkins software is developed by using Java language. So if you want to run Jenkins in your machine, JRE is required, Java runtime environment, because Jenkins software developed by using Java. So in order to run this Java application, this JRE is required. Jenkins is free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. So that means taking the code, compile the code, package the code, review the code, upload the artifact, deploy to the server. Whatever the process that we are doing manually, build and deployment process, that build and deployment process can be automated by using Jenkins. So what is Jenkins? Jenkins is free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. Using Jenkins, we can implement CI/CD. Remember, guys, CI/CD. That is very, 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 very important for every software engineer. Whether you are a developer, whether you are a tester, whether you are a DevOps engineer, they will ask you a question. What is CI/CD? Got it? So we are going to implement that CI/CD in the project by using Jenkins. So what is this Jenkins? Jenkins is free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. Jenkins we are going to use to implement CI/CD. Sir, what is this CI/CD? Let's talk more about CI/CD. The main agenda or main aim of this workshop is to implement CI/CD by using Jenkins. So you got the clarity, right? What is Jenkins? Jenkins is free and open source software. Jenkins is free and open source software. It is developed by using Java. Jenkins is free software. Free software. Jenkins developed using Java. Jenkins developed using Java language. So to run the Jenkins, Java is required. Jenkins is used to automate. Jenkins is used to automate, automate build and deployment process. It is used to automate build and deployment process. We can implement CI/CD using Jenkins. We can implement CI/CD using Jenkins. Now the question is, what is CI/CD? Now the question is, what is CI/CD? CI stands for continuous integration. CD stands for continuous delivery or continuous deployment. CI. CI nothing but continuous integration. Continuous integration. CD. Some people will call it as continuous delivery, and some people will call it as continuous deployment. There is a thin line difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. I will give you the clarity. I will give the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. CI/CD. CI/CD nothing but continuous integration and continuous delivery and deployment. So what is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is, whenever I modify the code in the GitHub, when the developer do some changes to the code in the GitHub, that the code should be deployed directly in the server automatically. That is called continuous integration and continuous delivery. When you make some changes in the code, I'm making some changes in the code in the GitHub. When I make some changes in the code, that code should be deployed directly. That means build and deployment process should be automated. When I do some code changes, if I click a button, immediately my build and deployment should happen. That can be done by using Jenkins. Whatever the build and deployment process we are doing manually, that build and deployment process can be automated by using Jenkins. Guys, are you able to understand what is a continuous integration? Continuous integration means whenever the code is modified, quickly, immediately we should be able to deploy that code. Immediately we should be able to deliver that code. That is called continuous integration and continuous delivery. CI/CD, CI/CD is one of the trending approach in software development lifecycle. CI/CD is one of the trending approach in the software development lifecycle. CI/CD is used to automate, is used to automate, is used to simplify and automate project delivery and deployment process. Project deployment and delivery process. Deployment and delivery process. Whatever the build and deployment we are doing manually, that build and deployment process we want to simplify. For that we are going for CI/CD process. CI stands for continuous integration. CD stands for continuous delivery or continuous deployment. Sir, what is the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment? We'll talk about that. CI/CD is one of the trending approach in the development lifecycle. CI/CD is used to simplify and automate project development and delivery process. CI/CD is used to simplify project development and delivery process, project build and delivery process. Deployment and delivery process can be simplified by using CI/CD. Deployment and delivery will be simplified by using CI/CD. So what is this Jenkins? Jenkins is a free software. Whatever the process we are doing manually, that process can be automated by using Jenkins. Jenkins is a free software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. We can implement a CI/CD using Jenkins. Jenkins. You got the clarity, guys? You got the clarity on what is Jenkins? Whatever the theory I'm explaining, everything I will show you practically now. Whatever the theory we are learning, for everything we are going to understand, everything we are going to understand practically. Everything we are going to understand practically. Able to follow me? You got the clarity? What is Jenkins? Jenkins is a free software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. We can implement the CI/CD using Jenkins. What is the CI/CD? CI/CD is one of the process. CI/CD is one of the approach in the development life cycle. Project from starting to ending, development life cycle, development, testing, deployment, delivery. Okay, CI/CD is one of the process that we are following, which is used for continuous integration and continuous delivery. What is the meaning of continuous integration and continuous delivery? When the code is modified, it should be ready for testing. When the developer modify the code, it should be ready for testing. It should be ready to deploy. That is called continuous integration and continuous delivery. When the source code is modified by the developer, that code should be ready. That code should be ready to test. That code should be ready for deploy. That we can achieve by using CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery. Are you guys clear? What is Jenkins and what is CI/CD? Are you guys clear with what is Jenkins and what is CI/CD? Come on. Are you guys clear with what is Jenkins and what is CI/CD? Right. So what is the advantage of going for CI/CD, guys? What is the benefit we are going to get if we go for CI/CD? What is the benefit we are going to get if we go for CI/CD? Is there any benefit or there is no benefit? Are we learning the CI/CD for time pass? Or is there any benefit available? Are we learning CI/CD for time pass or is there any benefit available? CI/CD is used to automate the deployment process. Okay, whatever the time that we are spending manually to automate the build and deployment, that can be simplified by using CI/CD. In order to implement that CI/CD, we are using Jenkins. Now see, what is the difference between continuous deployment and continuous delivery? Okay, continuous integration means when the code is modified by the developer, that code should be ready for testing. Sir, continuous deployment is the last stage after the delivery. Deployment, continuous delivery means the automatically release to the repository. Project is ready to deploy in the production. Continuous deployment means it is a production deployment. When we are going for continuous deployment, a manual approval is required for the production. Directly we cannot deploy the code for the production. Production means live environment. If you do some wrong deployment in the production, project will fail. So that's why continuous deployment requires a manual approval. If the client is approved, then only we will go for production deployment. Otherwise, we don't go for the production deployment. Delivery, continuous delivery means making the project ready to deploy in the production. After getting the approval from the client, then we will deploy the project in the production. Continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment. This is the order. This is the order we are going to follow. When developers has done some code changes, that code should be ready to deploy. So continuous delivery. So take the latest code, compile the source code, package the code, upload the artifact to the repository, that is Nexus repository, release repository. So we are going to keep that war file in the Nexus repository. It is ready. Once we got the approval from the client, then we will deploy the project into production. Automatically we can deploy the project into production if the project is ready to deliver. Continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment. Continuous deployment means deployment to the production with approval. Continuous deployment, continuous integration. When code changes happened, it should be ready to test. Then what is a continuous deployment? What is continuous deployment or continuous delivery? Which is the last step, guys? Continuous delivery. Keep it ready to release. Continuous deployment. Deploy the project to production. What is the meaning of production? Production means a live environment where users can access our application. Deploying the code to the production. Deploying the code to the production, nothing but deploying the code to the live environment. Deploying the code to the production, nothing but deploy the code to live environment. Continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment. Continuous integration, when code changes happen, it should be ready to test. Continuous delivery, keep it ready to release. Continuous deployment, keep it ready to release in the repository. Continuous deployment, deploy the project to production. For production deployment, we need approval. Directly we can't deploy in the production, guys, because production means very real application. For production deployment, we need to take client approval. In every company who are going to deploy the code into the production, they will take a client approval for production deployment. Continuous integration, when code changes happen, it should be ready to test. Continuous delivery, keep the project ready to release in the repository. Continuous deployment, deploy the project to production. For production deployment, we need to take a client approval. Without client approval, we are not going to deploy the project to production. Are you guys able to understand what is CI/CD and what is Jenkins? Jenkins is a free software. Jenkins developed using Java. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. We can implement the CI/CD by using Jenkins. What is a CI/CD? CI means continuous integration. CD means continuous delivery or continuous deployment. CI/CD is one of the trending approach in software development lifecycle. CI/CD is used to simplify and it is used to automate project deployment and delivery process. What is a continuous integration? When code changes happen, it should be ready to test. Continuous delivery, project should be ready to release. Continuous deployment, deploy the project to production. When we want to deploy the project to production, we need to take a client approval. Production means live environment. If you do a wrong deployment in the production, total collapse. If you do a wrong deployment in the production, total collapse. Project will be collapsed. Client business will be collapsed. Negative feedback. Continuous delivery and continuous deployment both are not same. Continuous delivery and continuous deployment both are not same. Deployment means deploy the project to the production. Delivery means keep the project ready to deployment. Continuous delivery and continuous deployment both are not same. Deployment is the last stage. Deployment is the last stage. Got it? So whatever we have seen theoretically, can we implement practically by using Jenkins now? Whatever we have seen theoretically, can we implement practically by using Jenkins? I will take one project. I will show you how to implement CI/CD for the project. Can I show you practically whatever the theory I have explained? Can I show you that practically now? Are you ready? Are you ready? Come on, guys. People are not responding. There are 800 people are there almost. I did not expect this much crowd. So I thought that today is Sunday morning 8 o'clock and that too winter season. I thought people may not join. I expected 2 to 300, but it's far from my expectation. It's far from my expectation. I expected 2 to 300 today morning when I woke up also at 7 o'clock. It is winter, it's very cold. So I thought that people may not join for the workshop, but you guys are really dedicated. I appreciate you. Good, good guys, good. I expected just 200 to 300 people because that too it is Sunday, winter season, morning 8 o'clock, n number of factors, but you did a great job. Thank you guys. Thanks for promoting our institute. So getting 800 people per workshop, it's not a small thing. Yeah. So I'm feeling very happy. And I'm getting very excited also to teach you this topic. Can you see that excitement into my voice? Can you feel that excitement? Yes. Good. Yep. So now, do you want to take 5 minutes break before starting the practicals, or shall I start directly? Yeah. Take 5 minutes break, guys. Take 5 minutes break and we'll start. So get some water or some coffee or tea. So feel relaxed. Then I will show you the practicals. Yeah, let's take 5 minutes break. Yeah, no need to leave the meeting. So keep it, keep it. I will be here. Just take some water and come back. All right, guys, are you back? Are you back? Good, perfect. So people are asking about the notes and all. Yeah, notes you will get in the Telegram. So I have given the Telegram link of our channel. So this is the Telegram URL. I'm sending in the chat box also. You can join in this group. After the class completed, I will share the notes in that group. Some documents also will be available. I will share those documents also in the group. Okay. If you are not able to join with the link, you can search with our username. Our username is Ashok IT official. Class notes, class video, I will share in our Telegram channel. So this is our Telegram channel username. If you are not able to join with the link which I have given, you can search with our username in the Telegram. Our username is Ashok IT official. You can join in the Telegram or you can join in the WhatsApp. Anything is fine. If you want to join in the WhatsApp, I'm giving the WhatsApp group link also. You can join in the WhatsApp group also. You will get the access. Class video, class notes, you will get it. Yep. Got it? All of you able to join? Yes, perfect. Let's get started. So as of now, we discussed about few points. So part one, workshop part one summary, what we discussed so far in part one of the workshop before the break, what we have discussed. We discussed about what is build and deployment process. We discussed about what is build and deployment process. And we discussed about application environments. We discussed about application environments. Why we need several environments. Why we need several environments for our application. Okay. Then what are the challenges in manual build and deployment process? Challenges in manual build and deployment process. Challenges in manual build and deployment process. Then we discussed about what is Jenkins and we discussed about what is cicd. So this is what we learned so far. This is what we have learned so far. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear? What is the build and deployment process? Application environments. Why we need several environments for our application? Challenges in manual build and deployment process. What is Jenkins? What is CI/CD? So this is what we discussed so far. Now let's have a quick revision so that we can start the practicals of this. Now, what is the build and deployment process? For a project, development team will be available. Development team will write the code. That code will be stored into GitHub. GitHub is a repository where the project source code will be maintained. Then build and deployment. Take the latest source code from the GitHub, compile the project source code, execute the unit test cases, perform the code review using Sonar, package the application as a jar file or war file, upload the build artifact into Nexus and deploy the application in the server. So this is build and deployment process. So for every project, build and deployment is mandatory because whatever the code we are writing, that code we cannot give to the client directly. That code should be compiled, that code should be tested, that code should be reviewed, that code should be packaged as a war file or jar file. We need to keep the code in the backup. Then we need to deploy the project in the server. If the project is deployed in the server, then only we can access that project. But here, once the coding is completed, we are not going to give the code to the client directly because we need to test it. To test that code, several environments will be available like dev environment, QA environment, UAT environment, and prod environment like this. Several environments will be available in the several environments will be available in the project. Several environments will be available in the project. Okay, what is the purpose of this environment? What is the purpose of this environment? These environments are used to test our application. Dev environment will be used by developers. QA will be used by testers. UAT will be used by clients. Pilot will be used for performance testing. Once the code is passed in all these environments, finally it will go for production. Finally it will go for production. So whatever the code we are writing or whatever the code we are changing, that should be deployed into multiple environments like this: dev qa uat pilot prod. Like this, multiple environments will be available. What is the environment? Environment is a platform which is used to run our application. Dev environment, developers will use to perform integration testing. QA, testers will use to perform functional testing. UAT, user acceptance testing. Pilot, pre-prod environment, performance testing will be done. Prod, live environment, end users will access application running in the prod environment. So development team is responsible for development activity. Testing team is responsible for testing activity. Operations team is responsible for build and deployment activity. This operations team is called as the DevOps team. Okay, development plus operations is called as DevOps. DevOps is a process which is used to collaborate development teamwork and operations teamwork. Okay, using DevOps process, we can simplify application build and deployment process. Okay, in order to do this process manually, there are some challenges available. Every day we need to deploy the latest code to the environment: dev environment, QA environment, UAT environment, and prod environment. So if you need to do the deployment manually, it will take a lot of time. And we need to deploy the code not in one environment. We need to deploy the code in multiple environments. If you want to deploy the code in multiple environments, it will take a lot of time, and it is a repeated work, and it is error prone. Repeated work and error prone. Got it? So to avoid these manual problems, we are going to automate. To automate the build and deployment, we have a software in the market, that is Jenkins. That Jenkins is free. That Jenkins is free. Jenkins is free. So by using this Jenkins, whatever the work that we are doing manually, that work can be automated. Okay, so what is this Jenkins? Jenkins is a free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. Using Jenkins, we can implement CI/CD. So what is that CI/CD? What is Jenkins? Jenkins is a free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java language. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. Using Jenkins, we can implement CI/CD. What is a CI/CD? CI/CD is one process which is used to simplify the deployment process, which is used to automate the deployment process. Okay, guys. CI, continuous integration. CD, continuous delivery and continuous deployment. CI/CD is one of the trending approach in the development lifecycle. CI/CD is used to simplify and automate project deployment and delivery process. Continuous integration. When code changes happened, it should be ready to test. When we do the code changes, that code should be ready to test. Continuous delivery. Keep that code ready to release in the repository. Keep the code ready in repository to release. Keep it ready in repository for release. Keep it ready in repository for release. Then what is continuous deployment? Release the project to production. Release or deploy the project to production. When we are going for the deployment, we need to take client approval. For production deployment, we need to take client approvals. All right. Now, so these are the things that we have discussed so far. It is a theoretical session completely. Now, the part 2 is our practicals. Are you guys able to understand this? What is the build and deployment process? Application environments. Why we need several environments for the application? What are the challenges in manual build and deployment process? What is Jenkins and what is CI/CD? What is CI/CD? So when you change the code, immediately the code can be deployed into server. Immediately our code will be ready to test. Within a fraction of seconds, we can make our code ready for test. Within a fraction of seconds, we can make our code is eligible for test. Okay, developer has modified some code. Within a fraction of seconds, we can make our code ready for test. With the client approval, we can deploy the project to the production. Production deployment means live environment. Every project that we are accessing using browsers, those applications are production applications. First development, then testing, then production. Got it? Yes. Now let us do one project build and deployment. Okay, guys, here, in order to do the build and deployment, what I will do is I'm going to take two virtual machines in the cloud. Okay, so now I will take my project in the GitHub. I have one Java web application in the GitHub. So this is my GitHub repository. This is my GitHub repository. In this GitHub repository, I have one Java web application which is developed by using Maven, Java web app, which is using Maven as a build tool. So this is the project available in the GitHub. Okay, let me show you that GitHub repository also. Let me show you my GitHub repository as well. In the GitHub repository, I have my project. Okay, repositories. So if you go to repositories, here Maven web application is available. So this is one simple Java web application which is developed by using Maven. This is my repository URL. This is my repository URL, GitHub repo URL. Now code is available in GitHub. Code is available in the GitHub. Now this code I want to deploy in the server. Okay, GitHub is available. I'm going to take a Tomcat server in the AWS cloud. I'm going to take AWS cloud. In the AWS cloud, I will take one virtual machine that is called EC2 instance. In the AWS cloud, we can create virtual machine by using EC2 virtual machine, which is a Linux operating system. In that virtual machine, I will take a Tomcat server. In that I will take Tomcat server. So it is AWS cloud. In the AWS cloud, I'm taking one virtual machine. That virtual machine will have Linux operating system. That virtual machine is having Linux operating system. In that Linux operating system machine, I will download the Tomcat. Now my project is available in the GitHub. My project should be packaged as a WAR file and it should be deployed into Tomcat. Web application is available in the GitHub. Tomcat is available in the AWS cloud. Let me go to my AWS cloud account. Let me start my Tomcat server. Which is available in the AWS. Guys, I will share the documents, how to do the setup, because setup will take 30 to 40 minutes of time. So I don't want to waste the time here. I have already prepared the documents for you, how to set up Apache Tomcat server in AWS cloud. So a PDF document is available step by step with the proper screenshots. Apache Tomcat web server, and what is Apache Tomcat, how to download the Tomcat, and how to install the Tomcat in the Linux machine with the proper screenshots. I have prepared a document. Once this workshop is completed, I will share these documents in our Telegram group so that you can access and you can follow that procedure. Okay, guys, it's fine. So let me take the Apache Tomcat. I have Tomcat machine ready. I have a machine ready with the Tomcat server. Let me take that virtual machine. In the AWS cloud, EC2 instance, Tomcat server is available. This is a machine. In this Tomcat is available. Let me start this machine. Guys. Next 1 hour is very interesting because we are doing practicals. Next 1 hour is very interesting because we are doing practicals. Okay? Yeah. My Tomcat server is starting, guys. Wait, give me a minute. My server will be ready. My Tomcat server will be ready. In the Tomcat server, I want to deploy. Server is in pending state. It is getting ready. Yes, Tomcat server is running. So Tomcat is a web server which is used to run Java web applications. Now take this public IP. I will connect it to this Tomcat server machine. by using mobile extram. It is a Linux machine, guys. It is a Linux machine. I'm connecting to that machine by using mobile extram. EC2 user. It is having a security with a private key. I have a PEM file for that. I'm connecting to that machine. I'm connecting to that machine. Clear. ls-l. Here, if you see, already I have downloaded Apache Tomcat. In the document, I have given the steps how to download the Tomcat. How to download the Tomcat, what is the command we need to use, all the steps I have given in the document. I have prepared a very clean and neat document here. So by using this wget command, we can download the Tomcat. So now Tomcat is ready. Now cd space Apache Tomcat ls-l. These are Linux machine. So in the Tomcat, we have bin directory, cd space bin. Once we go inside the bin directory, startup.sh file will be available. It is a shell script file in the Linux. Now I'm going to execute that shell script file, sh space startup.sh. When I execute that shell script file, it is saying that Tomcat started. My Tomcat machine is running. How to access this Tomcat machine? Take the public IP of that machine, and Tomcat will run on the port number 8080, public IP colon 8080. So with this, my Tomcat server is running. With this, my Tomcat server is running. Can you guys see the admin console of my Tomcat? Can you guys see admin console of my Tomcat? Please respond. Yes, Tomcat is ready. Now go to manager app. For this, I configured username and password as admin and admin. Click on sign in. Yes, I'm able to log in into Tomcat. Guys, currently in this Tomcat, is there any project which is deployed list application? Is there any Java web application or Maven web application which is deployed? Is there any Java web application or Maven web application which is deployed? No, no. There is no Java web application or there is no Maven web application which is deployed. Just my Tomcat server is ready. Code is available in the GitHub. Server is available in the AWS. Guys, understand. Code is available in the GitHub. My Maven project is available in the GitHub. Tomcat is available in the AWS cloud. Now I want to automate build and deployment process. Whatever the project is available in the GitHub, that project I need to deploy to the Tomcat server, that Tomcat server is available in AWS cloud. So do you want to see manual deployment or you want to see automated deployment? Guys, you want to see manual deployment or you want to see automated deployment? Come on, respond. What is manual deployment? What is the meaning of a manual deployment? What is the meaning of manual deployment? Taking the code, packaging the code, deploying the war file to the server. That is called manual deployment. Okay, shall I show you manual deployment first then? Shall I show you manual deployment first? Yes, see here. How can we do the deployment manually? Let me take the code from the GitHub, copy this code. Here I'm keeping workspace, a folder. In my Windows, I will download the project from the GitHub. Go to git bash, git clone. I'm going to clone my repository. I got Maven project into my local, cd space Maven web application. Then in this web application, we have the project. Let me package the project, clean package, mvn clean package. I'm packaging this Maven application. When I package this Maven application, war file will be created. That war file I need to deploy to the server. Now I'm executing Maven goal, which is used to compile and package our application. Once the application is packaged, it will generate a war file. Give me a minute, guys. So package is in progress. Build is going to execute now. mvn clean 1 minute. mvn clean package. I'm trying to package my Maven application. Once the application is packaged, it will generate a war file. That war file we need to deploy in the server. Yes, packaging started. This is build process. My project build process is started. My project build process is started. It is going to compile the source code of the project. It will execute the unit test cases of the project. It is going to package the application as a war file. I'm doing manual process. I'm doing manually. Manually, I have taken the code from the GitHub. I'm packaging this application. Yes, it is building war file, build success, war file generated. War file generated in the target folder. This is Maven web app, war file. Now, I need to deploy that war file in the Tomcat. I need to deploy that war file in the Tomcat. In the Tomcat, there will be a folder called web apps folder in order to deploy the war. Go to Apache Tomcat, web apps. In the web apps folder, I will upload my war file. In the web apps folder, I need to upload my war file. Workspace, Maven web app, target, war file. I have deployed the war file in the Tomcat. I uploaded the war file to the Tomcat. Now go to Tomcat admin dashboard, refresh. Can you see my project is deployed in the Tomcat now? This is admin console. Last time this was not available. Now this is available. So what deployment I have done? What deployment I have done? Is it automated deployment or is it a manual deployment? Manual deployment. Click on this application name. When you click on this application name, I'm able to access my project. My project is running in the cloud. Anybody can access my project now. See this? You click on the URL. You click on the URL. Are you able to access the project? Are you able to access the project? When you click on the URL, is it opening or not? Yes, it is opening. But deployment is done manually or deployment is done automatically. Deployment done manually or deployment is done automatically. Deployment is done manually. What I have done for the manual deployment? Manual deployment. Manual deployment. Okay. So what I have done here is I have taken the code from GitHub. The first step what I have done, downloaded code from GitHub, executed Maven goal, executed Maven goal, that is clean package. So it compiled my project and it packaged my application. Then uploaded war file into Tomcat server. This is called deployment. I have downloaded the code from the GitHub in my Windows. Then I have created the war file by using Maven goal. Okay. Once the war is created, war file created, war file created. Uploaded the war file into Tomcat server. This is called deployment. I have done the deployment manually. Then my project is used. My project can be accessed by anyone because my project is running in the cloud platform now. My project is running in the AWS cloud. So project is available in the GitHub. I have taken the project from the GitHub. I have packaged that project. I uploaded the war file to Tomcat. End users can access my project. Are you able to access my project? Are you guys able to access my project now? See, let me show you how to deploy once again. I'm going to undeploy this now. I'm going to undeploy this. Undeploy. Yes, I have undeployed. List applications. Is my application available in the Tomcat server or my application is removed from the Tomcat? Is my application available in the Tomcat or my application is removed from the Tomcat? My application is removed from the Tomcat. Here we have the option select war file to deploy. You can deploy from here or you can deploy from the mobile extreme. You can deploy from here or you can deploy from mobile extreme. There are two ways. In the mobile extreme, can you see upload to current folder? When I click on this, it is opening one pop-up. Click on this button, a pop-up is opening. When I click on this upload, a pop-up is opening. I can select the war file. I can click on open. Now you see the war file is copied. Can you see here how I have uploaded the war file? You can see right side section. You can see right side section. I have uploaded the war file again. Are you guys able to see the upload button here? Are you guys able to see the upload button here right side? I'm keeping my mouse cursor. So currently I'm pointing to Tomcat Web Apps. I'm pointing to Tomcat Web Apps. Web Apps is a deployment directory. Inside the Web Apps, I'm uploading my WAR file. Inside the Web Apps, I'm uploading my WAR file. When I upload the WAR file in the Web Apps folder, that means the project deployment will happen. Now see, project came here. This is a manual deployment. When I click on this project name, it is opening. Now I can give this URL. You can also access my project. You can also access my project. So that is manual deployment I have done. That is the manual deployment I have done. You got the clarity? Excuse me. Guys, you got the clarity how I have done the manual deployment? Now, tell me, what are the challenges in the manual deployment? What are the challenges in the manual deployment? I need to download the code. I need to create the WAR file. I need to upload the WAR file. All these steps we need to do manually. Is there any way to automate this? Is there any way to automate this? You have seen the real challenges now. Code is available in the GitHub. I need to download the code from the GitHub, and I need to package that code by using WAR file, and I need to upload the WAR file to the Tomcat. So this is one dev environment. What about QA? What about UAT? What about pilot? What about production? I just deployed into one server. This is a development server. Then what about QA? What about pilot? What about UAT? What about production? How many times I need to do this process? How many times I need to do this process, guys? Is it one time activity or it is a repeated activity? Is it one time activity or it is a repeated activity? Repeated activity. So I deployed into one server. Now assume that whatever the server I have deployed, this is a dev server. Similarly, we have the QA. Similarly, we have the production. This is my AWS Cloud Tomcat. This is a dev. Then here we have QA. Here we have UAT. Here we have production. I have 4 servers. I need to deploy the code into 4 servers. Manually, it will take a lot of time. There is a chance of doing the mistake. Repeated work we are doing. Repeated work we are doing. Can we automate this process now? Can we automate this process now? How can we automate this process now? Who will do this activity now? Jenkins. What is Jenkins? Jenkins is free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. Using Jenkins, we can implement CI/CD. Using Jenkins, we can implement CI/CD. Whatever the work we are doing manually, that manual work can be automated by using Jenkins. Okay, now I'm going to take Jenkins machine in the AWS. Right, guys? Now I have a machine in the AWS cloud. Now here I will take the Jenkins. Now here I will take the Jenkins. Jenkins server. In the Jenkins server, I will configure a job. I will create a job in the Jenkins. Now, whatever the work I have done manually, downloading the code, creating the WAR file, upload the WAR file to the Tomcat, whatever the work I have done manually, that work I will automate by using Jenkins. My Jenkins will take the code from the GitHub. My Jenkins will deploy the code to Tomcat. So in the Tomcat, I will deploy my WAR file. So that is called automation. That is called automation. Whatever the work that we have done manually, manual deployment, that manual deployment can be automated by using Jenkins. Jenkins is a free and open source software. Jenkins is free and open source software. It is developed using Java. It is used to automate build and deployment. Using Jenkins, we can implement CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. Now let us see how I am going to do the deployment of our project by using Jenkins. Okay. Now in the AWS cloud, I have Jenkins machine. In my AWS account, I have Jenkins machine. I have installed Jenkins in one computer, one Linux machine. Let me start the Jenkins. In the AWS, I have taken Jenkins instances. Currently, only Tomcat is running in my cloud. Let me take a Jenkins machine, Jenkins VM. It is in the stopped state. I'm starting this. These computers I am taking in the AWS cloud. These are called virtual machines. Virtual machines. Okay. Jenkins is getting started. It is in the pending state now. Refresh. Refresh. Yes. Jenkins is ready. Tomcat is ready. Let me access Jenkins in the browser. Jenkins in the browser. Jenkins also runs on the port number 8080. Tomcat is running on the port number 8080. My Jenkins also will run on the port number 8080. I'm trying to take Jenkins server. I have started my Jenkins machine. I'm trying to access my Jenkins. Yes, please wait. Jenkins is ready to work. Guys, this is Jenkins setup I have done in the cloud machine. So for that also, I have prepared the document. Jenkins setup. Jenkins setup in the Linux. So here we need to create a virtual machine in the AWS cloud. We have to create a virtual machine in the AWS cloud, and how to connect to the virtual machine, how to install Jenkins. To install the Jenkins, we need to install Java. First, I have installed Java. Then after I installed Jenkins. Okay. So a detailed 12 pages document available for Jenkins setup. But in the company, DevOps engineers will do this setup. DevOps engineers will do the Jenkins setup in the company. But here I am giving you this document. Using this document, you can set up the Jenkins. Okay, so like this Jenkins setup I have done. I will share the document also. For Jenkins setup, document is available. For Tomcat setup also, document is available. I prepared these documents. I will share these documents after the class. Okay, good. Now my Jenkins is ready. Ashok IT and Ashok IT. Click on sign in. That is my username and password for the Jenkins. Let me log in into Jenkins. Yes, I'm able to log in into Jenkins server. Welcome to Jenkins. I have taken one virtual machine in the AWS cloud. I have taken one virtual machine in the AWS cloud. This is a EC2 instance. Inside this EC2 instance, Jenkins server is running. Guys, if you observe, machine 1, virtual machine 1, Tomcat server. Okay, virtual machine 2, Jenkins server. I have taken one Linux virtual machine. In that I have installed Tomcat server. I have taken another virtual machine. In that I have installed Jenkins server. My project is available in the GitHub. In the real time also, this kind of infrastructure will be available. Code is available in the GitHub repository. Jenkins is running in one Linux machine. Tomcat is running in another Linux machine. Now, by using this Jenkins server, we need to automate project build and deployment process. In the real time, who will do this activity? In the real time, this activity will done by DevOps engineers. So this is a project deployment process. Project deployment process. I told you what is the duty of the development team. What is the duty of the operations team? Development team is responsible for the project development. Operations team responsible for build and deployment process. But nowadays in the companies, developers also doing the build and deployment process. Developers also should have idea on the build and deployment process. In some projects, developers will do development plus deployments also. All-rounder. Developer means you should be all-rounder. You should be able to develop the code. You should be able to test the code. You should be able to deploy the code. Now let me show you how can I automate that build and deployment by using Jenkins. Guys, you got the clarity on my infrastructure. What is the infrastructure I'm doing? I'm using. What is the infrastructure I'm using? You have a clarity on the infrastructure now. I have taken one virtual machine, Linux virtual machine. In that I have installed Tomcat server. I have taken another virtual machine. In that I have installed Jenkins server. My project is available in the GitHub. Now I need to integrate all these things. Now I need to integrate all these things. So code is available in the GitHub and I have a Jenkins. Jenkins should take the code. Jenkins should package the code. Jenkins should deploy the code into Tomcat, but Tomcat and Jenkins are in the different machines. Tomcat is running in one computer, Jenkins is running in another computer, code is available in the GitHub. Interesting concept. In the real time also, same thing will be there. In the real time also, same thing will be available. Okay, guys. You may get a doubt. Sir, why are you using Jenkins in one computer, Tomcat is in another computer? Why don't you use everything in one computer? If you keep everything in one computer, performance issues. When my application is running in the Tomcat, so many users will access my application. Na? So many users are going to access our application, right? End users will send a request to our application, right? If 1,000 people are accessing my application, load will be increased on the Tomcat machine or not. At the same time, if I am doing the deployments by using Jenkins and Tomcat, you can run on the same computer. You can run on the same computer. Load will increase. If I give you 5 kg weight, you can carry. If I give you 100 kg weight, if I keep 100 kg weight on your head, what will happen? Guys, if I give you 1 kg weight, 1 kg bag, aram say you can carry. If I give you 10 kg weight, you can carry. If I give 15 kg weight, you can carry. If I keep a 100 kg bag on your head, you can't handle. Same problem. If you keep the Jenkins and a Tomcat in the same machine, performance issues will come. Performance issues will come. Understand? In the real time, nobody will use Jenkins and a Tomcat in the same machine. Nobody will use a Jenkins and Tomcat in the same machine. Jenkins will be available in one machine, Tomcat will be available in another machine. That is the best practice. That is the best practice that we will follow in the company. You got it, guys? Maybe in the training, some faculties will explain Jenkins and Tomcat in the same machine, but that is not the recommended approach. But that is not the recommended approach, because when the application is running in the Tomcat server, so many people will access the application, burden will be increased on the machine. At the same time, you are doing the parallel deployments. I want to do the deployment of dev server, QA server, production server, UAT server. 10 deployments I'm doing parallelly. 10 deployments I'm doing parallelly. 1 lakh people are accessing my application. Then can you imagine the situation of that computer? Will it survive? Will it sustain? Will that computer sustain? If 1 lakh people are accessing the application, 10 Jenkins jobs I'm executing parallelly? No. So that's why I have created infrastructure like this. I have created a Tomcat. I have deployed the, I have installed Tomcat in one computer. I have installed Jenkins on another computer. My code is available in the GitHub. Okay. Now Jenkins should take the code from the GitHub, and Jenkins should package the code by using Maven, and Jenkins should deploy the code into Tomcat server. So this is called automated build and deployment. Okay, guys. Shall I move on? Or should I explain once again why I am taking two different machines? You got the clarity why I have taken two different machines? Guys, you got the clarity why I am taking two different machines? Still anybody not able to understand? Move on. Chalo. So now tell me, where is my project? Where is the code available? Where is my project? Where is the code available? In the GitHub. And where is my Jenkins? Where is my Jenkins? Where is my Jenkins? In Linux computer. Where is that Linux computer? In the AWS cloud. Okay. Where is my Tomcat? Tomcat is also available in the Linux computer. That Linux computer is available in the AWS. Now my Jenkins should talk to Maven, because project should be packaged in to package the project we need a Maven build. Okay, Who is responsible to do the Maven build? Earlier, I have done that build manually. Earlier, I have downloaded the code, I executed the Maven goal, I created the war file, I uploaded the war file in the manual process. Now, I want to automate. So who is responsible for Maven build? Jenkins is responsible for Maven build. Jenkins is responsible for Maven build. Understand my concept, guys? Are you guys able to understand my concept? Who is responsible for Maven build? Who is responsible for Maven build? Jenkins is responsible for Maven build. Okay. Now, what this Jenkins has to do? Step one, download code. Download code. Step one. Then step two, package project. Package project. So when we do the package, var will be created. Var will be created. Package project using Maven. Package project using Maven, var will be created. Var will be created. Step 3, deploy the var. Deploy the var in Tomcat. So these are the 3 steps my Jenkins server has to do now. Download the code using Git. Download code using Git. Okay. Download the code using Git. Now package the project using Maven. Step 1, download the code using Git. Step 2, package the project using Maven. When you do the package, war file will be created. Deploy the war file in the Tomcat server. With this, our build and deployment will be automated. With this, our build and deployment will be automated. Are you guys able to follow this? Are you guys able to follow this? What my Jenkins has to do? What is my infrastructure? What is my infrastructure? Linux VM, Linux 1, first one, Linux VM, first Linux VM, first Linux VM with a Tomcat server. Okay. Second Linux VM with a Jenkins server. Code available in GitHub. Code available in GitHub. Code should be packaged. Code should be packaged using Maven. Maven will create war file. Maven will create war file. Deploy war file into Tomcat. First Linux VM having Tomcat server. Second Linux VM having Jenkins server. Code available in GitHub. Code should be packaged using Maven. Maven will create war file. Deploy war file into Tomcat. Access application. Access application using URL. So this is the process. First Linux VM having Tomcat server. Second Linux VM having Jenkins server. Code is available in GitHub. Code is available in GitHub repository. Okay. Code should be packaged using Maven. Code should be downloaded. Download source code. Download project from GitHub. Download code from GitHub. Package the code by using Maven. Package the project. Package the project using Maven. Maven will create war file. Deploy the war file into Tomcat. Access the application using URL in browser. These are the steps we need to do. First Linux VM having Tomcat server. This my Tomcat server. This is my first Linux machine. Second Linux machine is having Jenkins server. Code is available in the GitHub. Code is available in the GitHub. One Linux machine having Tomcat server. Another Linux machine having Jenkins server. Code is available in the GitHub. Now what my Jenkins has to do? Jenkins has to download the code using GitHub. Download the project from GitHub. Once the project is downloaded, package the project by using Maven. Package the project by using Maven. Then what will happen? Maven will create a war file. War file will be created by Maven. Once the war file is created, deploy the war file into Tomcat. Deploy the war file into Tomcat. Access the application using URL in the browser. This is called build and deployment. Who is going to do these steps? Who is going to do these steps? Build and deployment process. Who is going to do this build and deployment process? Jenkins or I am going to do? If I do this, it is a manual deployment. If Jenkins is doing this, automated deployment. Earlier, I have already done that. Earlier, I have done the manual. Now I am going to do this by using Jenkins. Download the code from GitHub. Package the project using Maven. Maven will create war file. Deploy the war file into Tomcat. Access the application using URL. Above steps can be automated by using Jenkins. Above build and deployment process can be automated using Jenkins. Using Jenkins. Can we do that now? Yes. Let me go to my Tomcat server. Let me go to my Tomcat server. Kahan bhai? Yes. List application. Application is available undeployed. Yes. Guys, in the Tomcat server, currently, do we have our application or we don't have our application? In Tomcat, do we have our application or we don't have our application? We don't have. I have deleted. I have deleted. Now look at this diagram. Now I am going to do this Jenkins automation. Now I'm going to do this Jenkins automation. You got the clarity on my infrastructure? VM nothing but virtual machine. VM nothing but virtual machine. You got the clarity on my infrastructure. You got the clarity on my infrastructure. Tomcat is in one machine, Jenkins in one machine, project is in GitHub. Jenkins should download. Jenkins should download code. Jenkins should execute Maven package. Maven package. That war file will be created. War file should be deployed into Tomcat. Chalo. In order to do this, I am going to create a job in the Jenkins. Currently, in my Jenkins, nothing is available. It is a brand new Jenkins server. It is a brand new Jenkins server. Go to manage Jenkins. Baba Sheikh, I'm wasting your time. If you feel I'm wasting your time, you can leave the meeting, man. I'm not forcing you to attend this. Okay? Huh. Good. All right, guys. All right. Okay. So go to Jenkins here. Guys, in the Jenkins, I need to configure Maven build. I need to configure Maven. So Jenkins should talk to Maven now. So we need to configure Maven in the Jenkins. So in the Jenkins, there is a concept called manage Jenkins. In the manage Jenkins, there is a concept called manage plugins. In the Jenkins, there is a concept called manage plugins. Okay. Manage plugins is available. If you want to install the plugins, you can do that. And we have a global tool configuration. Go to global tool configuration in the Jenkins. In the global tool configuration, you can specify Git will be installed. To download the code, we need a Git client. Git client is configured as a global tool by default, Maven. So here we need to specify, I need to install the Maven in the Jenkins. So Maven is required to do the build, right? You no need to install the Maven separately. We can configure the Maven as a global tool in the Jenkins. We can configure Maven as a global tool in the Jenkins. Maven is configured as a global tool. Maven 3.8.6. I'm telling to Jenkins, hey Jenkins, download the Maven from Apache. Maven is a free software from Apache organization. I configured that, install the Maven. So Jenkins will download the Maven by default. And I want to deploy this. I want to deploy the war file to Tomcat. So there should be some integration between our Jenkins and Tomcat. There should be some integration between the Jenkins and Tomcat. So how to deploy the war file from Jenkins to Tomcat? For that, in the Jenkins, we will install one plugin called container deployment plugin. Container to deploy. Deploy to container. I'm installing one plugin called deploy to container. Install without restart. I'm installing one plugin called deploy to container. So what I have done is step process. Jenkins job creation process. Jenkins job creation process. Whatever the work I have done manually, I'm doing that work automatically now. I'm doing that work automatically now. Okay. So first step is login into Jenkins. Login into Jenkins. Configure Maven in global tool configuration. Configure Maven in global tool configuration. Jenkins will download Maven. Jenkins will download Maven. Okay. Then third step, install deploy to container plugin. Install deploy to container plugin. Install deploy to container plugin. So this plugin to deploy var to Tomcat server. Note, Git will be available by default in global tool. Git software will be available. Git software will be available by default in global tools. In Jenkins global tools. In Jenkins global tools configuration. Got it, guys? I logged in into my Jenkins server. I logged in into my Jenkins server. You will go to manage Jenkins. In the manage Jenkins global tools configuration, configure Maven in global tools configuration. Jenkins will download the Maven. How we are doing that? Manage Jenkins, manage Jenkins, global tools configuration. Manage Jenkins, global tools configurations, add Maven. That's it. I will share the screenshot for this. Global tool configuration. In the global tool configuration, go to Maven, Maven installations, Maven name, and Maven setup is there. Okay. I'm telling the Jenkins to download the Maven. That's it. With that, Maven setup is completed. Okay, login into Jenkins, configure Maven in the global tools configuration. Jenkins will download the Maven. Go to manage Jenkins, go to global tools configurations and add the Maven. Okay, Jenkins will download the Maven with this process. Then we need to deploy the war file from Jenkins to Tomcat. To do this deployment, we are using one plugin in the Jenkins. That plugin is called deploy to container plugin to deploy war file to Tomcat server. How to install this plugin? Manage Jenkins, go to manage Jenkins, go to manage plugins, go to manage Jenkins, go to manage plugins, go to available tab, go to available tab, search for deploy to container plugin, search for deploy to container plugin, click on install without restart. Click on install without restart. With this, plugin installation will be completed. Plugin installation will be completed. See here, I'm showing you once again. Go to manage Jenkins, global tool configuration. We are using this to configure the Maven. Go to manage plugins. In the manage plugins, go to available section. Here you need to check deploy to container plugin. I have already installed that plugin. I have already installed that plugin. What is that plugin? I installed a plugin with a name called deploy to container plugin. It is used to deploy the project to Tomcat server. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with this process? Jenkins job creation process. Login into Jenkins, configure Maven in the global tool configuration, install deploy to container plugin, then we are good. We are good. Okay, now it is very important, guys. I'm going to create the job now. I'm going to create the job now. New item, new item. I'm going to create my first job. I'm going to create my first job in the Jenkins. Freestyle project, click on OK. Freestyle project, click on OK. When I'm creating this project, from where it has to download the code, where it has to deploy the code, all these steps we are going to configure in the Jenkins. All these steps we are going to configure in the Jenkins. Observe carefully. This is very important now. Observe carefully. This is very important. See here. I'm going to create the project now. I'm going to create the job in the Jenkins. Create a job. When I select create job, it is asking name of the job. I'm giving my first job. I'm giving it as my first job. Select freestyle project. Click on OK. OK. This is my first project. This is my first project. Source code management. Source code management. Where is the project? Project is available in the GitHub. Na? Select Git option. Give the repository URL. This is my project repository URL. Copy this. Copy this repository URL and give here. Repository URL. If it is a public repository, no need to give the credentials. If it is a private repository, we need to give the credential. My repository is a public repository, anybody can access. My repository is a public repository, anybody can access. Okay, now I'm giving the repository URL. No need to give the credential. In the repository, can you see the branch name? My branch name is a master. If your branch name is different, you need to configure the branch name correctly. My branch name is a master, no problem. So I'm creating a project, general project. It is a freestyle project. My first job. This is my first project. Then source code management. I'm giving as a Git repository URL. I'm giving here. It is a public repository. No need to give the credential. Branch. In the Git, we have a master branch. I want to build the code from the master branch. Then build trigger. Trigger build remotely or trigger build periodically. Trigger the build. When you want to execute the build, that is, you can configure as a build trigger. I'm not selecting anything. Build environment. Delete the workspace before build start. Previous builds I want to delete. Build step. How you want to do the build? Execute Maven goal. Maven version. Select the Maven which we have configured in the global tool. In the global tool, I configured as a Maven. Then goals. I want to execute clean package. I want to execute the goal as a clean package. Okay. So with this, Maven project will be packaged. Maven project will be packaged. It will create a war file. After creating the war file, I want to deploy. That is post build action. So general section, a description, source code management, from where it has to take the code. I'm giving the repository URL, build trigger, when this job should execute. I'm not giving anything. Build environment, delete the old builds, build step, execute the Maven goal, clean package goals it has to execute, post build action. After war file is created, what you want to do? I want to deploy the war to Tomcat. Deploy the war file to Tomcat. This is called post build action. This is my post build action. Click on post build action. What you want to do as a post build? Deploy the war file to a container. In the post build action, I'm selecting an option called deploy war file to a container. So what is the war file? What is the name of the war file? My war file will be available inside the target folder. Target slash star.war. So inside the target, whatever the war file is available, I want to deploy the war file to the server. What is the context path? I'm giving context path as Maven web app, name of the project. War file, where the war file? War file will be available inside the target folder. War file will be available inside the target folder. Okay. Context path, container. Deploy the project to container. Which container? I am having Tomcat 9.x. So select Tomcat 9.x. Credentials of the Tomcat. So to deploy the project to the Tomcat credentials, Tomcat URL I have to configure. Add the Tomcat credentials. My Tomcat credentials are admin, admin, admin is the credentials of my Tomcat. I'm going to configure Tomcat credentials, add them, select it. These are the Tomcat credentials. Tomcat URL. Where is the Tomcat server running? Tomcat server running in the cloud. Take the URL of the Tomcat and configure that URL. This is my Tomcat URL. Na? Take this URL. Give the Tomcat URL in the Jenkins. That's it. That's it. See the options I have given. I am creating a first job in the Jenkins to automate the build and deployment. This is my first project. Source code management I'm giving as a Git repository URL. It is a public Git repository. No need to give the credentials. Build triggers. I'm not giving anything for build trigger. I will tell you what is the build trigger, how to give it. Then build environment. Delete the workspace before build starts. Build step. I'm asking the Maven to build. Maven I installed as a global tool. I'm selecting the Maven. Then I'm giving the goals to execute, clean package. Package goal will create the project as a war file. Post build action. I'm telling the Jenkins to deploy the war file to Tomcat. Deploy the war file to a container. This is the location where the war file will be available. Context path, Tomcat server, Tomcat credentials, Tomcat URL. Apply, save. With this, my Jenkins job is created, but I have not executed that job. I have not executed that job. Go to Tomcat server. Can you see in the Tomcat, is our application is available or our application is not available? Guys, our application is available in the Tomcat or our application is not available in the Tomcat? Application is available in the Tomcat or application is not available in the Tomcat? Application is not available in the Tomcat. Not available in the Tomcat. Who will deploy the application to Tomcat now? Who is responsible to deploy the application to Tomcat now? Who is responsible to deploy the application to Tomcat now? Jenkins. When Jenkins will do the deployment, I need to run the job. My job is created. My first job is created. When I click on this job, there is an option called build now. When I click on build now, that has to take the code from the GitHub, that has to package the code by using Maven, that has to deploy the war file into Tomcat. It has to perform these three steps now. When I build this job, when I run this job has to deploy the code into Tomcat. It has to take the code from the GitHub. It has to package the project by using Maven. It has to deploy the war file to Tomcat. Can we run that and can we see? Can we run that and can we see now? Before going to run this, can you check in the Tomcat, is our war file is available or our war file is not available in the Tomcat? War file is available in the Tomcat or war file is not available in the Tomcat? War file is not available in the Tomcat. Go to the Jenkins. Go to Jenkins and click on build now. I have clicked on build now. You see my job 1 is executing. Build number 1. Right side, left side, can you see? Build number 1 is executing. Build number 1 is executing. Okay, click on that build number. See the console output. How the build is happening, it is showing the details. It is downloading the Maven dependencies to package our project. Yes, see, it is doing the Maven build. My build is executing. Jenkins downloading the code from the GitHub. Jenkins is packaging the code by using Maven. Yes, it is downloading the dependencies. It is downloading the dependencies. First time it will do the download, guys. Only first time it will download all these things. Okay, guys, can you see my build success? Deployment, deployed the war file to Tomcat, finished, success. Go to Tomcat and refresh. Can you see my Maven application deployed in the Tomcat? Can you see my Maven application deployed in the Tomcat? Who deployed that Maven application? I deployed manually. I just executed my job. I just executed my job. Then what Jenkins has done? Jenkins has downloaded the code. Now you see the console, how the Jenkins job is executed. So if you go to my job, one build is there, build one success. Click on build number, see the console output. So build started by Ashok IT, building the workspace, cloning the Git repository, whatever the repository URL I have given, the Jenkins is taking the code from the GitHub repository, then Jenkins is executing the Maven build. Jenkins is executing my Maven build. So it is downloading all the required Maven dependencies. It compiled my project. It packaged my project. It created a war file. It created the war file in the Jenkins server. This is my war file. War file is created successfully. After creating the war file, I have given post build action, deploy the war file to the Tomcat by using a plugin. Deploy to container plugin. Deploy to container. So my war file is deployed to the Tomcat server. Go to the Tomcat, click on this list application. My project is available. Click on the project. We are able to access. Automated. Things are automated. Who has done the deployment now? Who has done the deployment? I have done the deployment, or my Jenkins has done the deployment? My Jenkins has done the deployment. Can you access the URL? Can you access the URL of my application? Can you access the URL of my application? Is it working or not? Working or not? Okay. Now can I show you real CI/CD? Can I show you real CI/CD? Come on, guys. Now see, in the Jenkins, let me go to the Jenkins here. Let me take the code. So see here, currently what is the output you are getting? Welcome to Ashok IT, best software training institute. Learn here, lead anywhere. Content is there. Content is there. Let me go to GitHub. Let me modify the content of that index.jsp. So I'm going to change the content. Best software training institute in Hyderabad. I'm giving the modified content. I'm changing my JSP file. I'm changing my JSP file. I'm changing some code in the GitHub. Okay, commit the changes. Now, what message it should display? Best software training in Hyderabad. But what is the message it is displaying? Best software training. Best software training. Best software training institute in Hyderabad. Best software training institute in Hyderabad. Okay, I have done the code changes as a developer. I have done the code changes as a developer, guys. When I do the code changes as a developer, is that code deployed in the server or my code is not deployed in the server? I done the code changes in the GitHub. Is the latest code deployed in the server? Latest code is not deployed in the server? No. Actually, content should display best software training institute in Hyderabad. But what is displaying? Just displaying best software training. So my code is not deployed. So in order to do the code deployment, what should I do now? Simply, can I run my job? Guys, simply, can I run my job? Simply, can I run my job? Build now. If I click on build now, will it deploy the latest code? Click on build now. I'm running the job. I'm running the job. I'm running the job. Okay, guys. My first build. Okay. Build number 2. When I do the build number 2, console output. Can you see? Can you see the build is a success? Can you see the build is success? This time, downloaded the code from the GitHub. It has packaged my project by using Maven. Build success, project deployed. Refresh the URL. Are we able to see the latest code? Are we able to see the latest code? Can you refresh the URL? Whatever the code I have modified, is the modified code deployed in the server? How much time it has taken to deploy the latest code? How much time it is taking to deploy the latest code? Come on, guys. Can I say fraction of seconds? Can I say fraction of seconds? Now, I will show you another beauty. You no need to run the job also. If you modify the code, immediately it should deploy. Can we make that change? If I modify the code in the GitHub, automatically my job should execute. Can we do that configuration? That is real CI/CD. Continuous integration, continuous deployment. If a code is modified, automatically code should be deployed in the server. If code is modified in the GitHub, automatically code should be deployed. Currently, automatic deployment is happening, or I'm clicking on automatically job is executing. I'm running the job now. Job is executing automatically, or I'm running the job. We are running that job. Can we do that automation? Can we do that automation? Yes. Configure. Configure. Okay. Build triggers. Configure build triggers. Right? Now go here, build trigger. In the build trigger, I will configure one option called poll SCM schedule. I will give 5 stars. Okay, apply, save. Now my job is having build trigger. Now guys observe, go to GitHub. Let me change the code. I'm just giving welcome to Ashok IT. I'm removing the code from I'm changing the code in the JSP. I'm changing the code in the JSP. I am removing some content from the file. Okay, save it, save it, save the changes. I committed the code in the GitHub. Now verify Jenkins process. I have done the code change. See the Jenkins. I have done the code change. I'm not doing anything. I'm not running the job also. I have done the code change in the GitHub. I have done the code change in the GitHub. I'm not doing anything. Let us see what will happen in the Jenkins. Let us see what will happen in the Jenkins. Last build 3, automatically build is executed. Guys, can you see? Can you refresh the URL? Can you refresh the URL? Latest code is deployed or not? Did I run the job or automatically that job got executed? Did I run the job or automatically that job got executed when I modify the code? Automatically it is executed. Can I say it is a CI/CD? Can I say it is a CI/CD? Can I say it is a CI/CD? Last build number is 3. Last build number is 3. Can I modify the code once again? Can I modify the code once again? Yes. This time I'm going to give welcome to Ashok IT Best Software Training Institute. Best Software Training Institute. Commit the code. I committed the code in the GitHub. See the Jenkins. See the Jenkins. Last build is 3. Automatically build number 4 will come. Automatically build number 4 will come. Keep refreshing the application URL, guys. Refresh the application URL. Currently still it is not deployed. Not deployed. Not deployed. It will wait a minute. For every minute it will do the deployment. For every minute it will do the deployment. Yes. Now, can you refresh? Can you refresh now? Code is deployed or not? Code is deployed or not? Am I running the job or the job is executing automatically? You see, fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs are available. 4 jobs are available. Now, let me do the code change again. Best Software Training Institute in Hyderabad. I'm making a code change. Commit the change. See the Jenkins. Already 4 jobs executed. Now see, 5th job. Can you observe left side? Can you observe left side? Can you observe left side? See here, automatically build 5 started. Can you see automatically build 5 started? Am I running that or it is automatically starting? Automatically started. Automatically started. Can I call it as a CI/CD? Guys, can I call it as a CI/CD? What is CI/CD? Continuous integration and continuous deployment. When I modify the code, latest code is deploying to the server. Now access my application. Yes, latest code is deployed in the server. Refresh the URL. Refresh the URL. Are you able to access? Are you able to access? Guys, now you understand the difference between manual deployment and automated deployment. Now you understand the difference between manual deployment and automated deployment. Enjoyed? In the real time, project will be deployed like this. Nobody will do manual deployment in the real time. In the real time, we are going to do this automated deployment by using Jenkins. We are going to do automated deployment by using Jenkins. We are going to do automated deployment by using Jenkins. Are you able to see the real deployment now? Sir, how I have done the CI/CD? See here. How I have done the CI/CD. In the configure, in the build triggers, there is an option called poll SCM. In the build trigger, I have given poll SCM. When I give the poll SCM, I have given 5 stars. I will give this in the document, guys. I will give this in the document. Poll SCM, 5 stars I have given. What is the meaning of these 5 stars? For every 1 minute, my Jenkins will check with the GitHub repository. Is there any code change? Is there any code change? Is there any code change? SCM nothing but software configuration management. SCM nothing but software configuration management. Here I have configured the scheduler. This is a cron expression with 5 stars. So with these 5 stars represents every minute. That means every minute my Jenkins job will check with the GitHub repository. Is there any code change? If there is a code change, job will execute automatically. If there is no code change, job will not execute. That is the meaning of this poll SCM. Complete automation. If you modify the code, every 1 minute my Jenkins job will talk to GitHub. Every 1 minute my Jenkins job will talk to GitHub. Hey GitHub repository, I have given the repository URL. Every 1 minute my Jenkins job will talk to this repository. Hey, is there any code change? First minute, is there any code change? No. Okay. After 1 minute, is there any code change? No. After 1 minute, is there any code change? Yes. Then start the job. Start the job. If there is a code change, it is going to start the job. Instead of giving for every minute, I want to check for every hour. If you keep the H first, that means it is hour. Every 1 hour, it will check with the Git repository. Is there any code change? If there is a code change, it will deploy. After 1 hour, is there any code change? If there is a code change, deploy. Is there any code change after 1 hour? Then deploy. If you give H, that means it is a star. Star, 5 stars. That means 1 minute expression. Every 1 minute, my job will talk to GitHub. Now apply. See this. Currently, how many jobs are executed? 5 times my job is executed. 5 times my job is executed. Let me do the code change once again. Index.jsp. Edit the file. Welcome to Ashok IT. Best software training institute. Not in Hyderabad. We are best in India. Best software training institute in India. Right. Commit the change. I have modified the code change. I have modified my code. See the Jenkins. Already 5 times it executed. Already 5 times it is executed. Let's wait. See the behavior of my Jenkins. See the behavior of my Jenkins. I'm not doing anything. I just modified the code in the GitHub as a developer. I modified my code in the GitHub as a developer. See the behavior of the Jenkins server. See the behavior of the Jenkins server. See the behavior of Jenkins. Observe. Guys, carefully observe. Left side, menu, build history. Observe the build history. You observe build history. Can you see? Guys, can you see the build history? What happened? Guys, come on. What happened? Did I do anything? Did I do anything? Then what happened? Build number 6 executed. Who executed build number 6? Who executed build number 6? Why the build number 6 executed? Why build number 6 executed automatically? Because I have modified the code in the GitHub. Because I modified the code in the GitHub. Scheduler. Can you refresh the application? Can you refresh the application URL? It should come as India. Yes. Able to see the code. Latest code deployed automatically. Huh. Can you say this is real CI/CD? Can you say this is real CI/CD? Perfect. Perfect. How we are achieving CI/CD? Manually we are achieving CI/CD, or we are using Jenkins to achieve CI/CD? Jenkins is doing the automated build and deployment. Now see the definition of the Jenkins. What is Jenkins? Jenkins is a free and open source software. Jenkins developed using Java. Jenkins is used to automate build and deployment process. Using Jenkins, we can implement a CI/CD. Are we able to achieve CI/CD implementation? Are we able to achieve CI/CD implementation? Code is available in the GitHub. My Jenkins is taking the code from the GitHub. My Jenkins job is executing. Jenkins is talking to Maven, doing the project packaging. In future, we will integrate Jenkins with Sonar. Sonar will do the code review. Then Jenkins is deploying the code into Tomcat. And we will use, in this process, we are going to use Docker and Kubernetes also. Now, so next week we have a batch on the Dockers and Kubernetes. If anybody interested to learn the Dockers and Kubernetes, you can attend that batch. Next week, I'm starting the Dockers and Kubernetes morning at 7 o'clock. Docker Kubernetes will take 1 month of time. So next week, new batch is starting for Dockers and Kubernetes at morning 7 o'clock. If anybody interested to learn the Dockers and Kubernetes, they can attend the live classes. Daily 1.5 hour class will be available 1 month. Dockers and Kubernetes. Dockers and Kubernetes course content also I have given here. A very huge content for DevOps level. I'm going to cover Docker and Kubernetes. Docker introduction, Docker installation, Docker architecture, Docker commands, Docker file, Docker images, Docker container, Docker volume, Docker compose, Docker swarm, Kubernetes introduction, Kubernetes architecture, Kubernetes setup, Kubernetes pods, Kubernetes namespaces, Kubernetes services, Kubernetes auto scaling, Kubernetes objects, Kubernetes volumes, Kubernetes cluster, Helm chart, Prometheus, Grafana, EFK setup. So all these things will be covered as part of Dockers and Kubernetes. Docker's Kubernetes fees is 5,000, 20 to 30 days it is going to take. Course content you can download from next Wednesday. The class is going to start for Dockers and Kubernetes at 7 a.m. IST. Zoom link is available in the website. Using this button, you can attend the demo for Dockers and Kubernetes. It is 1 month course, right? Because in the real time, that Docker and Kubernetes will be used in the deployment process. And if you want to see the real DevOps implementation, I have done one video, DevOps project setup, Ashok IT. If you see this video, in this video, I have explained the complete process, DevOps project setup, GitHub CI/CD pipeline I have created, guys. 1 hour 30 minutes video I have uploaded in the YouTube 2 months back. In that video, I explained GitHub pipeline, scripted pipeline, Jenkins. Jenkins will talk to Maven. Jenkins will talk to Sonar. Jenkins will talk to Nexus. Jenkins will talk to Tomcat. Okay, so if you go through this video, you will understand in the real time how DevOps engineers will set up the pipeline, DevOps project setup. So this video is available in our YouTube. This video is available in our YouTube. So 2 months back in the DevOps class, I explained the topic. That video I have recorded and I have uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you have free time, you can go through that video. You will understand clearly how I have created Jenkins pipeline to automate that build and deployment. Okay, I have given the video link in the chat box. You can click on that link and subscribe to our channel. That video will give you full clarity on how Jenkins will be integrated with GitHub, Sonar, Nexus, Tomcat. That too, in that video, I have explained pipeline, CI/CD pipeline with scripting. CI/CD pipeline I have explained with scripting. Okay? You can go through that video when you have free time. When you have free time. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. You will get Jenkins setup document. You will get Tomcat setup document. You will get today's class notes. You will get the today's class video also. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. I will share all the details in the Telegram group of Ashok IT. So you can join in the Ashok IT Telegram group. You will get the access for Jenkins setup document. You will get the access for Tomcat setup document, and you will get the class notes, and you will get the class video also. You will get the class notes and you will get the class video also. You will get the class video also. I hope everybody enjoyed this session. I hope everybody enjoyed this session. You understand what is Jenkins and what is CI/CD. You enjoyed what is Jenkins and what is CI/CD. Okay, good, good.